Hi. So, it's bedtime, as you can see. And, I was thinking about my 3-year-old and how our situation was when he came into the world. He was only he's only like a month old, maybe 2 months old, when we lost our apartment. We'd only been in the apartment for about 3 months. We were a couple of days late on the rent. Landlord, we were like 2 days late. Landlord went immediately to eviction. Didn't play around with it. Hadn't been evicted before, so there was some sort of paperwork we were supposed to file and to get some more time or whatever. We messed it up and we were evicted. He was real quick to evict us because our landlord was also a relative's landlord. That relative had been fighting in court for a year, not paying rent for that year, and just was a nightmare tenant. And they had finally won the lawsuit and finally got this relative out. A couple months later, we're starting to be short on the rent. We're starting to be late. And I guess this person was just concerned of having another situation like that. So, immediate eviction. My husband was going to work. We didn't even have a car. We packed everything up into pods, just storage pods, what we could fit. Now, not everything would fit in these pods because they were not very big, so a lot of our stuff got thrown away and destroyed. So then I was with a stroller with some bags of clothes and my 2 boys and my newborn, and a car seat in the stroller. So my husband worked nights. We were sitting at a restaurant, an outdoor sitting area, and his friend said he was bringing us a vehicle. His friend likes to buy old cars and to fix them up, flip them, and sell them. So he had this car that he had been working on, and it kind of works. Old car, junker. He was going to fix it up and flip it. But since we were in a situation, he'd go ahead and bring us a car. My husband had to go to work. He gave the restaurant man a little bit of money and asked if we could stay sitting outside waiting for his friend to come. And so my babies sat there and watched the sun go down. And they got tired. And they lay down on bar stools. A couple of bar stools laid across them to push them together, and fell asleep. And I held my newborn, my rainbow baby, because I had lost a baby just 2 years before that, and this baby was born on the same day we had lost the other baby. Same birthday. And so there's my newborn. The sun's gone down, it's dark, people are closing up shops around us, and my babies are sleeping on bar stools, and I'm just waiting. My husband went to work. I'm just waiting for something to happen. His friend shows up. He's got a car. I load my babies and my stuff into the car, and he hands me the pink slip that we were borrowing the car. He gave us the car, signed it over to us, and we were able to sleep in the car. I drove the car over to where my husband was working, picked up my husband, and from that day, for almost 2 years, we were homeless. We stayed in motels when we could. When things went better, we were in Airbnbs. But when things were tight, we were in the car. The car was hard fit. There was a missing seatbelt in the back. You know, it wasn't the best shape. It would leak when it rained. And I would sit in the back where it would leak and hold the baby and try to keep the boys as dry as possible. And some nights we would stay in the rental car that my husband had this program through Lyft, because he drove Lyft. So he worked nights, drove Lyft on weekends and when he was off work. And so he had this Hyundai hybrid. And so we would sometimes sleep in the rental car because it was cold and it was wet. And after a while, the car we were given broke down and we couldn't fix it. And then it got towed, and it wanted more for it to be released than the whole car was worth. Ended up having to give over the pink slip. But never forget the gift that it was. It kept us some shelter, some safety. Discovered that you could park at Walmart overnight under the lights. Sometimes we would park in neighborhoods, try to find a place not in front of somebody's house, but just off to the side somewhere where not bothering anybody. Or we would park at a park across the street from my husband's work. And when you're sleeping in a car, especially, you gotta have a plan in your head if someone come up to the car and question you. And there was always this plan. I always had a bottle ready to go. I had water and I had the formula already measured out and ready to just start shaking a bottle. And the idea was, if anybody asked, if the police showed up, I was going to act like I was on a trip and it got late and I got to feed the baby. I change the baby, feed the baby. The kids fell asleep. It's a long trip. I'm going somewhere. I've never had to use the excuse. Baby was very quiet the whole first year. I mean, when he cried was usually when he's just fussy during the day. He got tired of the car. Oh, he hated the car for a while. And when we got to be able to stay in a motel, the first thing he would do is run and jump on pillows and wrestle with the pillows and roll around just grabbing the pillow, and just the pillows were his best friend. His first year, the first few months, we would use that luggage rack thing at the motel that folds out and you could put your luggage on it. I would put his travel bed on that and set that next to the bed so that he could sleep in that, because we didn't have a bassinet or something. Sometimes he would sleep in the car seat just because he would be safe. When we slept in the car, he slept on me and I didn't sleep. I was too afraid of dropping him or smothering him or something. So I didn't really sleep. I would drift off and wake up, and I'd be just holding my baby. We kept each other warm. In that car, the trunk was open to the back seat. You just climb over the back seat into the trunk, and it was like all opened space to the body of the car. So my oldest would climb into the back seat, and he would sleep back there and in the trunk, and my middle child would sleep in the back seat. And so on days when my husband was working, I had the front seat to myself. At some point in the night, maybe I could get the baby to lay down in his car seat, and maybe I could get some sleep. When my husband had days off, we were all in the car. So my husband's trying to fit in this car. He's 6'4", and it was a stretch. He would start aching. I would start aching. I'm sitting next to him. I can't get as comfortable. It was a hard couple years. The pandemic hit. We're trying to find someplace. We applied for housing, but once you've been evicted, nobody will rent to you. My husband was working 2 jobs. My husband was driving Lyft. We had income, but nobody would rent to us. Denied housing. So, pandemic hit. We're trying to stay in one place as long as possible. We're trying to stay away from crowds. We didn't even have masks. There was no PPE available anywhere. They were sold out everywhere. We were tying burp cloths around our face, trying to go to the store, buy formula, diapers, that kind of stuff. When I parked at Walmart, that was the most safest feeling area, because we still had access for like until midnight or 1 in the morning. We could use the restroom, get something to drink, make sure the boys had full tummy, if we had ability to buy food at the time, and get them situated. So they had a last chance to use the bathroom, get something to drink, and then go back to the car and get comfortable. There were times where my husband's co-workers would collect some money for us, and we'd be able to stay in a motel. I remember his one co-worker came to the door with hot cocoa. And I was so cold and aching. I stood up and she gave me the hot cocoa. I held it in my hands and just let my fingers warm up, I was just so happy. It was an incredible blessing. And we were in Airbnb that was like a studio. So it had a living room and it had a bedroom, but it didn't have a kitchen or anything. But it did have a bathroom. So we got a little cupcake, and that was my baby's first birthday. This Airbnb was across the street from a testing center where they were testing people for COVID. And they had put up tents because there was not enough there. So they were having like an overflow. And people were coming who were sick to this place just across the street. And we were listening to ambulances all day and all night for days. We were there for a couple weeks in that one Airbnb. The longest we stayed in Airbnb was for a month, I believe. And it was hard. The thing that Airbnbs gave us was a sense of home. There would be kitchens usually. It'd be furnished. It'd be nice. And the kids would forget that we don't have a home. In the motels, it was hard. There would be sometimes a microwave, sometimes a mini fridge. Keeping milk from spoiling. After the baby turned 1, you started drinking cow milk. I would buy milk, and we would fill up the tub with ice and put the milk into like a container in the tub with the ice all around it and try to keep it from spoiling during the night so the baby will have milk in the morning. It was hard to do laundry and just keeping everybody clean. And then we ended up with the riots starting, the protests, the big protests. And we were down the street from the protests. I had to go get something. My husband had to drive me there. The kids were in the Airbnb. It was on the 7th floor, and it was downtown San Diego. Coming back, we gotta pick up medicine or something. Coming back, the protests were just 1 block away from where we were staying. We had to figure out how to get around them. I was very vocal online about the protests, you know, but being there in the midst of possible violence, all I could think about is getting back to my kids. So, the moment we had the opportunity, I left the state. We left California. And it was scary. But here, my baby celebrated his 3rd birthday in an apartment. We have been in this apartment. We're coming up on 2 years in December. He has a bed, and he has a routine, and he has a lifestyle, and he is doing so well for himself. He's waking up. And I don't think too often about how things started with him, but I'm sad that he didn't have the things I would have had if we hadn't lost the place, you know, his own crib, his, you know, just the stability. As a baby, I couldn't let him crawl because we were in motels, and I didn't trust the floor to be clean for him to crawl on. So he didn't get to crawl around. He was held, and he slept on me for years. And so getting him, last night he slept in his little bed all night. He is 3 years old, 3.5. And we have co-slept since he was born. And it wasn't so much of a choice as a necessity, because there was no space. There was nowhere for him to sleep but on me. And so you do what you can. And I don't know what else to say. It shouldn't be so hard to have housing. I mean, housing shouldn't be something just for the wealthy. You took away the ability for us to just build a house where we can. We gotta buy one. We gotta rent one. Only the very wealthy can just go out and buy something. You can't just build it. You gotta buy the land. You can't just go out into the middle of nowhere where no people are and just clear some land and build. You have to own it. You have to have permits and all that stuff. So we're the only country that has credit scores. We're the only country that will deny housing to somebody who can afford it over something like an eviction. I can understand a history of evictions. If you've been evicted from 7 houses in 2 years, I mean, it looks like a pattern. But we had never been evicted before. Never been more than 30 days late. By the time next month rent is due, last month's rent was always paid. Even if it was a little late at times, because situations come up, and they do. You know, we've had bills from the past show up and just take our income. Some bonus he had years ago, an IRS came up and just froze his account and took his paycheck. Well, you know, there's only so much you can do. Had other situations come up, car repairs, medical. You do what you can. Sometimes we had pay just not show up. You know, calling up the boss and going, you know, payroll messed up. There's no pay. My pay didn't show up. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to leave your home because you're 2 days late. Especially if you have income. It's coming. I'm not saying like people just spent it on having fun. I'm not talking about people who spend their rent on a party. I'm talking about people who are trying to feed the kids, take their medicine, get to work. You know, you gotta pay gasoline to get to work. Toll roads, oh my god. In California, there was a road that takes my husband to work. It was the only road that would go to his work, and it was a toll road. It seemed like sometimes he had to pay to go to work. It's just insane. And then people would treat us like we were doing something wrong, like we were not good people, because we were always in need. We lost all our friends. We lost family. We were always in need, always struggling. He lost everything in the crash back in 2008. Continued to struggle. And now we're doing better. He's retired. Don't have to worry about ageism or sex or the racism for him. Sexism for me. I have been once told I couldn't get a job because I was a woman. It's not often. I was thinking that was illegal, but I work now and I'm doing well, and he stays with the kids. So he works so much, he missed a lot of the older 2 boys' early years. So he's spending a lot of time with this one, and so he's just enjoying being daddy with the baby. And I get to work, and I get to do whatever I can to ease his burden. And I get to feel like I'm making us more stable. And the goal is to get a house. Not just to have a mortgage, but to pay it off and have a place that we will be able to call home for generations. That will never, ever be homeless again. I don't wish homelessness on anybody. Nobody should be homeless. Nobody should be sleeping in their car. Nobody should be looking around at night, wondering where they're going to sleep. It's just, terrifying. You're vulnerable. You are not safe out there. And you have to sleep. You can't stay awake forever. You can't spend the rest of your life just walking around. You need to lay down. You need to sleep. And you need to be safe when you do it. You can't rest. And I spent so many nights unable to sleep, worried about what if someone came to the door, what if someone tried to get into the car, what if somebody drove into the car. What little protection we had wasn't secure enough. It was just a pane of glass between my baby and whoever's outside. If I can, I always try to help others. Try to pay it forward for those who helped us. We've been blessed. We've been rescued. I've had people give me money when we needed it, for diapers, for housing, for food. I've had, obviously the car was given to us. When we got this apartment, it was empty. And the lady came in and gave me everything I needed for a kitchen. All my dishes and pots and pans and everything. Glasses, silverware, coffee maker. I was rescued. And whenever I can, I try to pay it forward. I try to help others. There's just so many. And though I'm not homeless, I'm not secure either. And being secure shouldn't be this hard to get. I'm not looking for millions. I'm not looking for extravagant. I'm just looking for survival. Just looking for safety. And I guess that's what I think about when it's nighttime and my baby's sleeping and I'm looking at him. And I gotta go to work tomorrow. I get up at 4 in the morning and I've cut into my sleep time, so I'm gonna cut this short. Alright, so anyways,